the issue of water rates. And we've asked, okay, you don't provide water to your employees, but you are an associate of the state government, and so is the Water Authority. They are also associates of the state government. So under law, you are associates of each other. And we have received confirmed now rulings from the ATO confirming that, particularly in Victoria, the Water Authority in Victoria, or the Water Authorities, I should say, because there are many of them, they are all authorities of the state, and therefore if you work for a state employer, you can salary package the cost of your water rates up to an annual limit of $1,333 per annum. So, if you work for a state government employer, there's an opportunity there. We looked at public transport as well, because obviously public transport is provided by the state or authorities of the state. It's quite a difficult one. It is exempt. It fits within the magic salary packaging box, there's no doubt about that. But actually administering a public transport packaging program is quite challenging. You don't want employees coming in with a box full of bus tickets and trying to salary package that. We were looking at trying to use a card product. Anyway, it was difficult. Water rates are much easier because everybody pays water rates. All you have to do is submit your water rate bill 4 times a year and get reimbursed up to $1,333 worth of pre-tax dollars. May not seem like a lot of money, may only be $400 or $500 savings per employee per year, but that's $400 extra in their pocket. And more importantly, it's another benefit that you can add to the menu of salary packaging items available to your employees. And of course, the bigger that menu is, the more value it has to your employees. Even if they actually don't salary package, they just look at this menu and they think, wow, look at all these things that my employer allows me to pay for using pre-tax dollars. Isn't that great? So that's part of, in-house benefits. They may not be worth thousands of dollars a year, but if you like, they're a bit of a stocking filler for salary packaging. It's still a couple of $100 savings for your employees, and it's something to add to the menu. Relocation benefits, I want to touch briefly on those as well, because they are becoming more attractive now that LAFA has been abolished. This is relevant for anyone in the room who's got employees who are relocated throughout the country. There are some absolutely massive salary packaging savings available to that very small group of employees. Things like stamp duty on the purchase cost of a new home. That's packageable. So if you've got an employee who's moved from Melbourne to Sydney to take up a role in Sydney, and as a result they've sold their house in Melbourne and bought a house in Sydney, they're probably paying $50,000 in stamp duty, and they could package that whole thing. $50,000 tax-free. If we're working off the example I gave at the start of a 33% saving, that's huge. That's $16,000 extra in their pocket. Similarly, removal costs, transport costs, if they have to rent a home temporarily in the new location, that can be salary packaged as well. So again, you might have employees who are thinking, I've been transferred and I was going to claim LAFA, but now that's gone. I feel there's a gap, there's a hole in my salary packaging options. Well, you can potentially fill some of that hole with relocation benefits, particularly if they are purchasing or selling their home as a result of the relocation. So relocation is quite an exciting one as well. Okay, I think 2 more slides. Superannuation, I mentioned it before. It's clearly the most commonly packaged benefit. When we look at our numbers, certainly perhaps not in terms of dollar savings, it may not be the biggest, but in terms of raw numbers of people doing it, superannuation is clearly the most popular. Super is an exempt benefit. As I said, there are very few hoops that the employee needs to jump through to qualify for that. It just needs to be a qualifying Australian super fund. But superannuation, as you all know, is subject to a cap. The concessional, so you can only pay so much pre-tax superannuation into an employee's account before they start paying excess contributions tax of 31.5%, which of course wipes out any kind of saving that they otherwise would have made. Now, the cap has been reduced in last year's budget, cap's been reduced from 50,000 for people aged over 50 to now 25,000 for everybody across the board. So everybody is now looking at a $25,000 cap on pre-tax contributions. And of course that cap includes super guarantee amounts. So if you've got an employee who's earning $100,000 a year and you're putting 9%, $9,000 into their super account, then the most that that person can salary package is $16,000 because you add the super guarantee amount to the salary packaging amount to determine whether or not they've breached the cap. We do get a lot of customers who ring us up and say, I want to salary package $25,000 worth of super this year. And hopefully our agents say to them that you must breach the cap. If you do that, it's basically impossible that you won't breach your cap. Because once you factor in the super guarantee amount that your employer is already putting in, then the room left for salary packaging is obviously less than $25,000. So do be aware, if you've got any employees out there who are salary packaging a large amount of super, they may breach the cap, and it's worth reminding them that they need to think about the super guarantee amount before they set their salary packaging amount. And of course, if the government is to be believed, we will be moving over the next few years towards a 12% super guarantee amount, and that's obviously going to squeeze out the salary packaging opportunity a little bit more. So the more that's being paid as super guarantee, the less that can be paid or that can be salary packaged. But it certainly is worth it to fill up the rest of the cap with salary packaged super, because it goes in at 15% tax and stays in there until it comes out. Superannuation is a very valuable salary packaging item. I do have a bullet point up there that I want to draw your attention to, which is whose responsibility is it to monitor that cap? Because I guarantee you, when the employee gets the bill from the ATO saying, you've breached your cap, here's a bill for an extra 31.5% tax, a lot of them are going to try to argue that it was your responsibility to monitor their super payments. It's not. It's absolutely not. But just because it's not your responsibility legally, that doesn't mean that it's not still a good idea for you to keep an eye on that and to try to help your employees make sure that they are meeting that obligation. It was I think Matt mentioned just before, and I will touch on this just briefly, that if you salary package any benefit and it effectively reduces the employee's salary, then technically you have an opportunity as an employer to reduce the super guarantee amount that you pay to them. So if somebody's, again, earning $100,000 a year and they manage to package 20 grand worth of benefits, then you could reduce their super guarantee payment from $9,000 down to 9% of $80,000, whatever that is. Legally, you can do that, but I just want to say, as a salary packaging industry professional, it's generally a bad idea to do that. Employees don't tend to be thrilled to find out that you have reduced their super payments because legally you are entitled to do it. It's generally a good idea to keep super at the same rate that they would have been at had the employee not salary packaged. All right, I am almost out of time. Last slide, going forward. Well, the big thing that's out there on the horizon at the moment is a bit of a mouthful. It's called the Not-for-Profit Tax Concession Working Group. It is a new Treasury working group that has been established to consider the tax benefits offered to the not-for-profit and charity sector. So again, if you're not working for a not-for-profit or public hospital employer, this is not going to impact you. If you are working for a not-for-profit or public hospital employer, then potentially this could. These guys are supposed to have made their recommendations already, but they're running a couple of weeks late, so the recommendations could come out any time. They might have come out this morning. But we are expecting that they will recommend a range of things that could hurt salary packaging in that sector. For example, they will almost certainly recommend that this holiday package benefit that I mentioned before, they will recommend that it be removed, which I think we can all live with. They will probably also recommend that the meal entertainment benefit either be abolished or be capped. And they may even recommend that the threshold benefit be abolished. This would obviously be quite damaging to employers in that sector, because it would really significantly limit your opportunity to offer salary packaging to your employees. So just be aware that's out there and keep your eye on it, because if the recommendations aren't necessarily going to be accepted by government. In fact, the Henry Review made some of those recommendations and they were rejected by the Rudd government at the time. But they're the recommendations that just won't die. They keep coming back, and And keep your eye on the media, because I think that they will come back again in the next couple of weeks. I mentioned before, but I'll mention it again, the transition for cars to the new rate, that ends on the 1st of April 2014. And on that date, everybody, whether it's a grandfathered car or not, everybody moves to a flat 20% FBT rate for their cars, which is probably good news. It makes it easier for us to actually administer their vehicles. So I've got the takeaway up there, which I will mention to you just again, because I want to make sure that if you take away nothing else from my presentation today, these are the things that I really would like you to take away. The main one is that salary packaging is an effective way to increase the amount of money your employees take home at the end of the day. It's effective and it's legal. It's based on law. And in fact, a lot of the salary packaging or the FBT concessions were deliberately put into the Act by the government in order to facilitate salary packaging. Things like the threshold benefit for charities, that's deliberate. That's the government saying, we want you as an employer to be able to deliver more into your employee's pocket without it costing you more in overall remuneration costs, because we know if you work in the charity or public hospital sector that you don't have the capacity to pay wages that are as high as the private sector. So it is legal, it is effective, and it is, as I said, a little bit clever. If you do have a salary packaging program, then you should review it fairly regularly to make sure that the menu is as full as it can be, that you are offering a full range of salary packaging benefits. If you think back to the second slide I put up there with all of the different FBT concessions, you know, it's often worth going back to that and thinking to yourself, could we add new things to our menu? Do we have an in-house packaging opportunity? Because, of course, the more things you add to the menu, the more benefit you're delivering to your employees, and I guess the more opportunity that you have as a payroll professional to be noticed for doing something good, to buck that trend, to get rid of that view that payroll is only doing a good job if it doesn't get noticed. The more that you offer in salary packaging terms, the more you are able to get noticed for good things. And of course, the last point, you've got to make sure that your salary packaging program is compliant, that it meets all of the statutory rules and obligations. You've heard a lot about that this morning. I will just say that we see some